Good morning, Dan and Amy. So, there was some tension during the campaign between some Republicans and Donald Trump, some conservative intellectuals, like, for example, at National Review Online, and Donald Trump. Most have folded in, certainly since he won election. We haven't spoken with Congressman Adam Kinzinger in a while. He kind of back and forth about Trump, said he couldn't support him early on and kind of held his judgment for a while, talked about his great support for Mike Pence as his running mate. So let's get a little update as the rapprochement is occurring between Trump and his team and House Republicans under the leadership of Paul Ryan and with Reince Priebus as the chief of staff. Congressman Adam Kinzinger joins us now. Adam, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. How you doing?
Good. So, did you vote for Trump?
No, I did. Look, I didn't. I didn't vote for Hillary. I just kind of abstained from the presidential race. But, look, obviously, taking his words during the campaign, I had concerns. I was open about them, and I have no regret. I mean, that's one of the things you can never regret is standing on principle. But after the election, I got to tell you, I've been impressed. I've liked what I've heard. He's put some really good choices around him, and it really started, frankly, the night of the election when he stood up and gave what was a pretty humbling, victory speech and talked about bringing the party together, bringing the country together, and from there he's put some great picks around him, and I'm actually really excited about a Trump.
But he's also walking back on a lot of key campaign promises that people voted for example, hiring or getting a special prosecutor to look into the Hillary Clinton email scandal. Do you agree with that?
Hey, look, I'll let him defend that, right? I mean, I'm just sitting here saying, from fixing Obamacare or repealing Obamacare to getting tax reform to lifting sequester on the military. These are things I think we're going to be able to do, and I'm excited about in terms of what he promised in the campaign and where he's at now. That's something for the Trump administration. I'm just sitting here saying, as a Republican member of Congress, I think we have a really good opportunity to push forward a Republican agenda.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say he's walking back a lot of campaign promises. And the Hillary matter. Look, she wants to run for again in 2020, and we should want that. So I'm here to start, conservatives for Hillary Clinton as the 2020 Democrat nominee committee today.
I am too.
I mean,
am too. We've been saying around here, we really hope Nancy Pelosi gets reelected.
Absolutely,
she's the best thing for us.
Don't go changing left. We like you just the way you are in the super minority. And so, with your military background, let's talk a little bit about his national security team as it's currently constituted. Talk about some of the appointments he's made that you like and where you think he should go, if you have a viewpoint on it, with Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State.
So, really like Mike Pompeo for CIA. Mike and I sit next to each other on the Energy and Commerce Committee. Smart guy, knows intelligence, and I think a really good pick. A little concerned about Flynn. Flynn's great on Fox News and on media. Have a little bit of concerns about his views on Russia, but that's mitigated a lot by the fact that I think he's putting some other good folks around him. If he puts Mad Dog Mattis as defense secretary, I mean, this guy, I would give all my money to make Mad Dog Mattis the secretary because, look, his people love him. And I always say, when I'm asked, what makes a good leader, I'm like, I can't define leadership, but I can tell you, you're a good leader if your troops are willing to follow you to their death or into hell, and that's Mad Dog Mattis. I mean, his men and women love him that have worked for him. Great defense secretary. And look, from Secretary of State, that's where all this drama is. I'd love to see Mitt Romney. I'd love to see Petraeus. I think John Bolton would be great. I think we have a lot of good options for defense for Secretary of State.
Petraeus, even though he's still on probation for leaking secret classified information to his lover.
Yeah, look, that's something that's obviously going to have to be addressed.
Just a minor issue.
Especially given the Hillary Clinton stuff. But I just think Petraeus, besides those mistakes, people are human, they make mistakes. He obviously knows his stuff, and the surge worked under him. But I think Trump will make the right choice, whatever that is.
Now, with respect to General Mattis, I just want to point out that it's just an interesting coincidence that he and I share the same coda in part. Now, mine is a little bit more broad than his. He said, with respect to being deployed in theater, He told Thomas Ricks this, the author of Fiasco. Be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everybody you meet. And that's how I live my
Wow.
life every day. So, I appreciate that perspective.
That's why I always conceal carry around you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
right. So,
No, look, but
yeah.
one of my favorite things about that Mad Dog said is he goes, you have these guys that slap women around, make them cover their faces and all that stuff, and he goes, it's actually a lot of fun to kill people like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
We love him.
He's not
He doesn't-
screwing around. He is not joking around, General Mattis.
Okay, so your friend Mitt Romney, also a never Trumper, does your gut feeling tell you that maybe he's really actually considering him, or do you think that this is just an act?
No, I think he's really considering him. Here's again, and you ask Adam a month ago versus Adam Kinzinger today. I think Trump is really good at kind of understanding the feeling of people, and he's really good at, I don't want to say playing people in a bad way, not in a bad way, but kind of understanding how to be in this new era. And so I initially was like wondering about the Romney thing, but to have him at dinner last night, to have Romney come out and say nice things about Trump today, I think he's really under consideration. And if you look in the past, Barack Obama, who was his first Secretary of State, it was Hillary Clinton, his vanquished foe, and then it was John Kerry, the guy who lost in 2004. And there's a long tradition of kind of making the party's front runner, I guess failed front runner, the Secretary of State. I think Mitt Romney would be good, and I think Donald Trump likes success, and he's going to put whoever is going to make him and the country look the best. So
Democrats have turned themselves into a coastal party plus Illinois at present. And in Illinois, the viewpoint by the governor was that Trump is the name that shall never be spoken. Right. And that turned out to actually create more ink about Ronner and his views on Trump than probably if he would have just said, I said, I'm going to support the Republican nominee. I'm going to support the Republican nominee. If you don't like him, don't vote for him. That's all I got to say on the matter and be done with it. Instead, it kind of was a tortured dance that he played with the Chicago and Springfield press corps for most of the final few months of the campaign. Trump won 91 counties in Illinois compared to Mitt Romney's 79 in 2012.
Yeah.
That a good strategy that the governor chose in terms of how to deal with Trump as the nominee, particularly when you see what's happened in all of our neighbors in the Great Lakes?
Yeah, look, I don't know. I mean, he has to make that decision. I was very outspoken about my concerns, and not because I would get anything out of it, because I believe, if you represent people, you have to be open about what you believe, and I think that's a requirement. In terms of the governor, look, I mean, it's not just downstate. My district went heavily Trump.
Yeah,
it's a great Republican district. It was a Republican sweep everywhere. But there are areas that didn't. I mean, you look at, Bob Dole, a great member of Congress, outperformed Trump on the ballot, but couldn't do it enough and lost. And I'll let the governor make that decision. But the thing we have to remember, in looking back on this, Trump is a very different kind of candidate. So this isn't like, your standard candidate for president and everything else. I mean, this is very different, very unique. Now, maybe this is the new blueprint for the future. Maybe this is kind of a one and out. But, whether it's – I think you just have to look at folks like the governor and say, the governor, frankly, has done the best he can given the situation. And, frankly, the governor is focused on winning state house, state senate seats, and now he's going to have to focus on winning his reelection because –
well, right.
And you've been huge on this, by the way, in your life. We have to take back Illinois because we are a blue island in a sea of red, and we can be red.
Well, so let me ask you this follow-up then. You mentioned Dole and our lack of success in Illinois as compared to all of our Midwestern neighbors. And the problem is that we got hammered in suburban Cook County and the collars again. And so did Trump, but so did Mark Kirk. So it's not strictly ideological. There's something else happening here.
Right.
And so I wonder what you think in terms of what is happening and what is not happening that should be in suburban Cook and the collars. Because I just don't think people in DuPage or Lake or Will County are much different than people in suburban Milwaukee or suburban Philadelphia or suburban Cleveland or Cincinnati, but they're sure voting differently.
I mean, here's the deal. I think it all comes down to this Mike Madigan machine. I mean, you look at the document. And by the way, if any of your listeners have not watched that Madigan documentary,
yeah,
you can find it on demand. Watch this thing. I mean, I'm involved in politics. I watched it about 3 weeks ago, and it woke me up to new things. There is a Democratic/Mike Madigan machine that is very real, and we are in the process right now. You, with all the great work you've done, the governor and Republicans in Illinois, my campaign gave $100,000 to the state party to do this. We're beginning to crack that machine. We've got to crumble it because 10 years ago, if you went to Louisiana, that was a Democratic state until they crushed the machine. I think the machine's a big problem. And, you're always going to have suburban and downtown voters that vote Democratic. That's fine. But it's, the machine politics of what we have that is just enough to make this a blue state in the middle of a sea of red. I think we can win this. It's going to take some time and patience, and we're going to have to get over our frustration and just put our head down and realize that Illinois is not exempt from what other states like Louisiana, et cetera, have been able to do.
So you think in my lifetime or our lifetime that we'll be a red state?
You're kind of you're on the downside. So maybe not your lifetime, but what about my lifetime, Adam?
Look, I think we can do this at the next redistricting. We're going to be good to go.
Okay. All right. Well, and that, of course, is predicated on Governor Rauner winning re-election, so there's some control of the map, right, which is key.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. He is Congressman Adam Kinzinger, representative for the 16th Congressional District. Congressman Kinzinger, thank you for joining me and for Amy in the twilight of her life. We appreciate your time.
Anytime, guys. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Eddie, join us on our turnkey.pro answer line.